Your soulmate's medical report is on its way, and what it reveals may change everything you thought you understood about their silence. Watch this now because they truly love you. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. There is a reason this message found you at this exact moment. It was not an accident. It was not random. Something connected to your soulmate has been hidden beneath the surface for longer than you realize, and now a truth they could not bring themselves to speak may finally be impossible to avoid. For some time, your soulmate has been carrying a private fear. Not the kind of fear they could easily explain in one conversation. Not the kind they could simply laugh away and forget the next morning. It has been sitting quietly inside them, shaping the way they think about love, the future, and even you. And that is why the words, "It's over for you," do not mean what they first appear to mean. Something may indeed be ending. But listen carefully. It may be the fear, the uncertainty, the endless silence. The distance that made you wonder whether this connection ever meant as much to them as it meant to you. The biggest revelation is still ahead. Your soulmate has had moments recently when they looked perfectly normal to everyone around them. They smiled. They answered ordinary questions. They moved through their day. But inside, they were waiting. Waiting for information. Waiting for answers. Waiting for something they had been afraid to confront. And every time they imagined what that answer might mean for their future, one person kept appearing in their thoughts. You. Have you ever wondered why one person can suddenly return to your mind even when nothing around you seems to remind you of them? Why does a memory arrive without warning? Why can a face, a voice, or one unfinished conversation suddenly feel more powerful after weeks or months of silence? Sometimes the heart remembers what the mind is trying to set aside. And somewhere in your soulmate's heart, there has been a sentence they have never been able to say aloud. I wish I had told you sooner. Don't skip. Because that is not the biggest confession. Your soulmate has been afraid that if they let you too deeply into what they were facing, you would worry. They were afraid you might change your plans for them. They were afraid you might stay because you felt obligated instead of because you truly wanted to. And perhaps most painfully, they were afraid of allowing themselves to imagine a beautiful future with you while uncertainty still hung over their own life. So they did something that felt safer at the time. They became quiet. They created distance. They stopped explaining themselves. And if you have ever felt that their behavior made no sense, this is where the hidden truth begins. Their distance did not necessarily come from indifference. It came from fear. But fear has a strange way of making people act opposite to what they truly feel. Someone can miss you and still remain silent. Someone can love deeply and still become difficult to reach. Someone can imagine a future with you while simultaneously convincing themselves they need to stay away. That contradiction has been living inside your soulmate. And the medical report they are waiting for has forced them to face it. My beloved child, listen carefully. The most unexpected part is still ahead. There was a night when your soulmate could not sleep. Everything around them was quiet, but their thoughts were not. They kept imagining two possible futures. In one, they received the news they feared and continued pushing everyone away. In the other, they received a different answer and suddenly had no excuse to keep hiding. And do you know which possibility frightened them more? The second one. Because if the uncertainty disappeared, they would have to confront the truth about you. They would have to ask themselves why they still think about you. Why your name still carries emotional weight. Why the idea of speaking to you honestly feels both terrifying and comforting. Why, after everything, part of them still wonders whether your paths were always meant to cross again. There is one truth you still haven't heard. Your soulmate has not been waiting for you to become perfect. They are not sitting somewhere measuring every mistake you have made. They are not demanding that you erase your past before you are worthy of love. In fact, some of the things you question about yourself are the very things that made them see you differently. Your softness. Your patience. The way you keep going even after disappointment. The way you care even when you pretend not to. The way you have survived seasons that changed you. They notice strength in places where you sometimes see weakness. They see depth in the parts of your story you may wish had gone differently. And somewhere inside them is another sentence. I never needed you to be perfect. I only wanted you to be real with me. But there is something even deeper. What looked like delay between you may not have been the end. It may have been preparation. Every unanswered question forced both of you to learn something. Every closed door redirected something. Every period of silence revealed what could and could not survive without constant reassurance. Every disappointment shaped the person you are becoming now. And your soulmate has been changing too. They have begun to understand that hiding does not protect love. Silence does not always prevent pain. Sometimes it creates a different kind of pain. They know that now. And when they finally receive the report they have been waiting for, they may also receive something they were not expecting. Courage. Stay till the end because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has already imagined the conversation. Not once. Many times. They have imagined saying your name. They have imagined hearing your voice. They have imagined the pause after the first few words. They have imagined you asking why they disappeared emotionally when you would have listened. And they have imagined the only answer they can give. I was scared. But that answer is only the beginning. Because beneath it lies another confession. I was scared because you mattered. That is the sentence they have been trying not to face. You mattered enough that losing you felt frightening. You mattered enough that disappointing you felt unbearable. You mattered enough that they tried to control the outcome by stepping back before life could make the decision for them. But love does not always disappear because somebody steps away. Sometimes it becomes quieter. Sometimes it becomes more difficult to name. Sometimes it stays hidden in memories, unfinished messages, and the strange habit of checking whether one person is doing okay. Have you ever felt that someone was absent from your life but not entirely absent from your heart? Your soulmate understands that feeling more than they admit. They may have tried to fill their time. They may have told themselves to focus on other things. They may even have insisted that they were fine. But then something small would happen. A song. A place. A phrase. A certain hour of the evening. And suddenly, there you were again in their thoughts. The final piece is beginning to appear. Because the report is not merely about a medical result inside this story. Emotionally, it represents an answer. An answer your soulmate believed they needed before they were allowed to imagine love again. And as that answer approaches, they are realizing something startling. They may have spent too much time waiting for life to become perfectly safe before letting themselves live. They may have delayed conversations that mattered. They may have kept words locked inside their heart because they were terrified of speaking them at the wrong time. But what if there is never a perfect time? What if love is not about waiting until every uncertainty disappears? What if it is about being honest while life is still imperfect? That realization is changing them. And this is where everything begins to shift. Your soulmate recently looked back at one moment involving you. An ordinary moment. Nothing dramatic. Perhaps a conversation. Perhaps a smile. Perhaps the way you listened when they were not even saying much. But now, looking back, they understand why that memory survived. It made them feel seen. Not judged. Not analyzed. Seen. And once someone has experienced that kind of emotional recognition, it becomes difficult to forget. There is another message hidden inside their heart. If I get another chance to speak honestly, I do not want to waste it. Don't skip. The biggest revelation has not arrived yet. For a long time, your soulmate believed the report would tell them something about their future. But while waiting, they discovered something about their heart. They discovered that even when they could not control tomorrow, they still knew who they wished they could talk to today. You. And that realization embarrassed them at first. Because they may have spent so much time trying to convince themselves that the connection had passed. That they had moved on emotionally. That silence meant closure. But deep emotional truth does not always obey the story we tell ourselves. Sometimes the heart keeps one door open even when the mind claims it has been closed. And your soulmate's door has not been completely closed. There is still a question living there. What if we were not finished? Not because destiny forces two people together. Not because love should be chaste. Not because you should stop your life and wait. But because some stories deserve honesty before they deserve an ending. And your soulmate is starting to understand that. My beloved child, do not mistake this message for an instruction to chase them. Your soulmate does not want you to abandon yourself while waiting for anyone. They do not want you searching every coincidence for proof. They do not want you putting your happiness on hold. The deeper message is the opposite. Keep living. Keep growing. Keep becoming more at peace with who you are. Keep protecting the softness in your heart without allowing it to become desperation. Because if two paths are meant to cross meaningfully, you do not have to destroy yourself trying to force the intersection. What looked like waiting may have been preparing you to meet love differently. With more wisdom. With clearer boundaries. With less fear. With more honesty. And your soulmate is being prepared in the same way. They are learning that love cannot survive forever on hidden feelings alone. At some point, somebody has to speak. At some point, fear has to lose its authority. At some point, the truth has to become more important than the possibility of rejection. And the medical report that is on its way has become that turning point for them. The final truth is finally coming into view. But this is not the ending. There is still one final message they have never shared. Your soulmate has wondered what would happen if they saw you again unexpectedly. Not in some dramatic place. Not under perfect circumstances. Just somewhere ordinary. Perhaps one of you would notice the other first. Perhaps there would be a second of disbelief. Perhaps your eyes would meet and neither of you would immediately know what to say. And then something familiar would return. Not because every problem disappeared. Not because the past stopped mattering. But because emotional recognition has a strange silence of its own. One look can remind two people of every word they never finished. One ordinary conversation can suddenly become unforgettable. One smile can carry the weight of months of questions. Your soulmate imagines that moment more than they admit. They wonder whether you would look different. Whether your energy would feel different. Whether you would still carry that familiar softness. But mostly they wonder what you would see when you looked at them. Would you see the person who disappeared? The person who became distant? Or would you see someone who finally understands what fear cost them? That question follows them. And the next part may surprise you. Your soulmate has rehearsed an apology in their mind. It is simple. I should have trusted you with the truth. Not because they expect forgiveness immediately. Not because one sentence can repair everything. But because they finally understand that you deserved honesty. Then comes the sentence they find hardest to imagine saying. I thought pushing you away would protect you, but I think I was protecting myself from how much I cared. That is where the emotional truth becomes impossible to hide. They were not only afraid of what the report might say. They were afraid of needing you. Afraid of allowing you to matter so deeply that your absence could hurt them. Afraid of building hope around a future they could not guarantee. But love has never offered guarantees. It only offers choices. To be honest or hidden. To remain afraid or become vulnerable. To hold on to pride or speak from the heart. And your soulmate is approaching one of those choices now. Listen carefully. What comes next changes everything. The report arrives. Your soulmate sees their name. Their heart beats faster. They read the words carefully. Then they read them again. And for a few moments, everything becomes very quiet. The fear they had been carrying begins to loosen. The future they had refused to imagine suddenly feels possible again. And then something unexpected happens. They think about you. Immediately. Not because the report literally proves who they love. No paper can do that. But because in the moment when their future begins to feel open again, their heart moves toward the person they had been trying hardest not to think about. You. And that tells them something they cannot ignore anymore. The final report may answer one medical question. But emotionally, it exposes another truth. Your soulmate is still carrying feelings they never properly released. That is what they have been hiding. That is what they are finally forced to confront. And suddenly the meaning of, "it's over for you," becomes clearer. It may be over for the confusion. Over for the endless guessing. Over for the version of this story where silence gets to make every decision. Over for the belief that fear has to control what happens next. But there is still one final layer. Your soulmate does not know how you feel now. That scares them. They know time may have changed you. They know you may have built new boundaries. They know you may not welcome the truth the way they once imagined. And they understand they cannot demand anything from you. Love without respect becomes pressure. And that is not what they want. What they want is a chance to be honest. A chance to say what they should have said before. A chance to let you decide after hearing the truth instead of forcing you to make sense of silence. Their hidden sentence is changing. It is no longer only, "I wish I had told you sooner." Now it has become, "If I speak, I hope I finally have the courage to tell you everything." And there is one more promise beneath it. If you choose a different path, I will respect it. But I do not want fear to be the reason you never knew what you meant to me. That is love becoming more mature. Not possession. Not desperation. Truth. The last piece has arrived. But even now, there is another emotional truth underneath it. Your soulmate does not want you to stop living while this story unfolds. They want you to keep moving. Keep laughing. Keep building something meaningful. Keep becoming stronger without becoming harder. Keep your heart open without handing it to uncertainty. Because if the two of you are meant to share another conversation, the best thing you can bring into that moment is not fear. It is yourself. Whole. Present. Honest. And your soulmate must do the same. Perhaps that is what all this waiting has been preparing. Not two perfect people. Two more honest people. Two hearts that have learned something from distance. Two people who understand that time is precious. Two lives that no longer want silence to speak louder than truth. And one day, the meeting may be simpler than either of you imagined. No dramatic music. No crowd. No perfect speech. Just an ordinary moment that feels strangely different. Your eyes meet. There is recognition. A pause. Then one of you smiles. And suddenly, something in the past begins to make sense. Not everything. Not instantly. But enough. Enough to know that the journey was not meaningless. Enough to understand that some delays teach us how to recognize what matters when it finally stands in front of us. My beloved child, the strongest message is still coming. Your soulmate's deepest wish is not that you wait forever. It is that you never let disappointment convince you that you are difficult to love. They do not want you believing that another person's silence defines your worth. They do not want you turning your past into evidence against your future. They see something in you that you may forget to see in yourself. Resilience. Tenderness. The courage to hope again. And somewhere in their heart is one final whisper. Please keep becoming who you are meant to become. If our paths meet again, I want to meet the version of you who never gave up on their own life. That is the promise. Not that every detail will unfold exactly as imagined. Not that love should be forced. But that whatever is meant to become clear will require truth. Your soulmate is approaching that truth. The report is approaching. The fear is weakening. The silence is becoming harder to defend. And their heart is becoming louder. So when you hear the words, "It's over for you," remember what may truly be ending. The waiting without understanding. The story built entirely from assumptions. The belief that distance always means absence of feeling. The idea that fear deserves the final word. Something is shifting. And your soulmate knows they may soon have to choose between protecting the silence and protecting the truth. This time, they want to choose the truth. They want to tell you why they became distant. Why they were afraid. Why your name kept returning. Why one memory survived every attempt to move on. Why the possibility of speaking to you again still creates that strange mixture of nervousness and hope. And above everything else, they want you to know this. You were never forgotten simply because I became quiet. Stay with that for a moment. Because after all the suspense, all the hidden feelings, all the unanswered questions, that may be the sentence that explains everything. You were not erased from their heart. You became part of the truth they were afraid to face. And now, as one chapter of fear approaches its ending, another chapter may be waiting to begin. Keep walking forward. Keep your peace. Keep your confidence. Keep your kindness. Do not chase what has to choose you freely. Do not force what needs honesty to grow. But do not let yesterday convince you that tomorrow has nothing left to reveal. Because somewhere, a person who once thought silence was safer may finally be discovering that some truths become heavier the longer they remain unspoken. And their final whisper is this. When the moment comes, I hope you understand why I was afraid. But even more than that, I hope you understand that through all of it, some part of my heart kept moving toward you. And perhaps that is why this story does not end here. Perhaps the report is only the beginning of the truth. Perhaps the silence was never the final chapter. Perhaps what looked like an ending was quietly preparing two hearts for the moment when they could finally meet honesty with honesty. So keep living. Keep becoming. Keep your heart open without abandoning your wisdom. And if that ordinary moment arrives, if a familiar face appears, if a conversation begins, if the silence finally breaks, listen not only to what is said. Listen to what has changed. Because the person standing before you may no longer be the one who ran from the truth. They may finally be ready to face it. And the one truth they have carried longest may be the simplest of all. I never wanted fear to be the reason I lost you.